Today we're together with Amanda Ashworth. And first of all, Amanda, thank you for taking the time. It's super nice to see you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Amanda, you come recommended from our friend Rebecca, who we also have had on the podcast. I was looking for guests and I was thinking, why not just ask some of the people who have been on? And Rebecca recommended you, and she's like, Amanda is doing the Worldschooling Hub Goa. You would probably enjoy talking to her. So here we are.
Thank you. Yes, I appeared on one of Rebecca's talks recently.
So where are you now and where will you go in a couple of days?
So I'm currently in Dubai, which is our home base. And on Saturday, I will return to Goa.
And you say home base but return. So is Goa a steady thing in your life?
Yeah, so this is a kind of 5-year project. So we're now 1 year into it. So at the end of 5 years, we'll reevaluate our lives and see if it still fits, what changes we want to make. But it's the idea is for the next 4 years.
Oh, nice. Maybe we should start by how did you end up moving to Dubai? What happened in your life?
Okay, so I'll go back to the beginning of probably how I started homeschooling. Is probably the easiest thing. So I read a book by Tim Ferriss, which was called The 4 Hour Workweek, and it just made me start to question life. That on paper I had everything that society says you should have, but I felt pretty empty and was like, right, okay, is this it? And when I read that book, the desire to look at homeschooling, it was kind of a nudge. And the more I investigated it, the more that I was like, okay, I think this is something I should try. So at that point, I had one child. I now have 3, and he was 7. And there wasn't anything wrong with what he was doing, but he was incredibly bright. And I just could see that the spark was starting to go out of him. And so I took him out. And then after I took him out, I realized that there was a problem that hadn't been diagnosed by the school, that he had dysgraphia and he was also gifted. And the two were masking each other within school. And he was being punished because he couldn't produce the output that the school wanted. But at the same time, he was really bored because it was way beyond the levels that he was capable of working at. And so then I discovered the world of Worldschooling. And so we started to incorporate that in our lives. So we have historically always traveled 6 months of the year and then always had a home base that we come back to. 3 years ago, we decided to relocate to Dubai. So for those that don't know, Dubai has no income tax and has year-round sun. So those were the 2 things that were just, let's see. And it's also connected to about a third of the world is within a 6 or 7 hour flight. So it's a great place to and it's very, very safe for families. I love Dubai, but I don't love Dubai all the time. And so India, I stumbled across 6 years ago. My husband's parents are Indian, but he never spent much time there. And I ended up there on a 2-day stopover, stayed for 2 months, and just kind of fell in love with the place. And this is a story I hear about India a lot. I kind of refer to it as Marmite or Vegemite. You either love it and it stays with you forever, or you hate it and you can't wait to leave.
I'm not one of the Marmite
I'm
people.
the latter.
Yeah. But that's you Brits. We don't understand the Marmite.
No, it's just we're all different. Yeah. India is just not my thing.
No, I think we have been unlucky with India.
We stayed for a month, and I was like, been there, done that. I'm not going back to India.
But we have a good friend from India who is also saying maybe you've been in the wrong place and should give it.
I'm about 57 countries I want to visit before I go back to India.
Okay. So I feel exactly the same about the United States. It didn't make a great impression on me. I've got no, I'm not going to hurry back there kind of. So I think people are all the same. So we've chosen Goa. And Goa, I refer to as fake India. It's the softest possible landing you can get into India, where you can get the people, the culture, the food, the environment, but you don't get the chaos that you get in the cities. You don't, the noise, the overwhelm, some of the poverty. Goa is just almost like its own little pocket of India.
Yeah. I would like to circle back to the homeschooling. So you continued on the homeschooling path. And he is he the one who is now 17?
He's 17, yeah.
Yeah. So how has his journey been from not happy or bored in school and then going to homeschooling path?
Yeah, good. And over the years, we've tried so many different options. So he tried online schools. We've done online programs. He's done hubs. He at the beginning of the summer, he went to Canada on a language exchange or a language immersion with a family that we met last year in Malaysia. So again, these well-schooling communities that he went to teach their child some English and volunteered there. And now he's living in the UK for a couple of months independently. And doing his studies there.
Yeah. And the whole Worldschooling Hub Goa, how did that came to be? What ignited the spark in you to want to do that?
So I probably got the calling for community at the beginning of last year, that having 3 children, so my children are 17, 8 and 5 now, so all very different ages and where they're at in terms of their learning. And when I was looking around, I couldn't find anywhere that we'd always traveled independently and loved that, but I wanted that community. And I couldn't find many hubs that could cater for all 3 children. And it was a case of, well, if I've got one of them at home, we may as well have all of them at home. And if they had a drop-off program or a team program, the one with the team program that would stretch my teen, but with the drop-off program that didn't also replicate school, that was quite key. And that also then had the community and some things that I wanted to do as well. So we got stuck in India at the beginning of COVID and we had to be repatriated. So it took me about 4 years to want to go back to India. And we ended up there last year and kind of fell in love with the place again. And I was looking for potentially so quite a lot of people will spend the winters there. So I thought, well, maybe we could possibly, look at getting a place here and have this community here, but not a hub. And when I looked on a website, there were 2 properties, one that was really meh and one that I sent to my husband and said this would make the most perfect Worldschooling hub. It was a huge project. I suggested that I went to look at it, had no idea how we were going to pull it off, but I'm a massive believer in the universe. And I kind of said to myself, if now, not when, the girls were 5 and 7 at the time, let's try. And now we're kind of a year on.
Wow. So what is the hub? What is going on in it?
So we are a full service hub. So we have different programs. We have a drop-off program for the younger children, which is Waldorf inspired. So we have 2 teachers that come from a Waldorf background. We don't offer a curriculum at all. So play is very much it's self-directed what we offer. And any learning will be done via games and play-based activities. Then for the Teen Hub, it's more challenging. So we have a teen coordinator who we have more soft skills focused. They also all do personal projects. There's some leadership in it, and they have a bit more independence. So it's quite separate and what the 2 offer is. And then I think what probably differentiates us is we then have a program for adults. That we saw last year a lot of families that were coming to us that were maybe on gap years or had been traveling for a while, and mums especially that would come and would be slightly burnt out, and kind of you give, especially when you are homeschooling, you give so much of yourself to others to actually finally take some time for yourself. So they come and spend 1 month with us.
And so also living there and eating there, and so it's like
yeah. So
we're in one place.
So we're co-living, co-working. We have options of people staying off-site. So again, we only have family rooms. So we understand that some families might want some more privacy or that they have a bigger family. And so they will stay off-site. We have more families staying off-site this year. We also have a lot of families coming back from last year.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's flowing for you.
And also a lot of work, I presume. We are dipping our toe in it with the World School Village we are doing in Tarragona. And I'm just like, oh my God, so many questions, so many people, so many interactions. And while looking forward to it, it's also a lot of work behind the scenes.
So I was warned by other hub owners as I was taking this project on that about how much work it was. And I would say now, did I completely underestimate the amount of work needed? Then yeah, absolutely. So to give you an idea, in Goa, it's now been raining since the 3rd week of May. So monsoon brings amazing nature, but it also brings a huge amount of work that then we have to rectify before guests come.
Of course. It's not the little drizzle that you can have in UK from time to time.
No, it is constant. But what I am so lucky about in Goa is I have the most incredible team, which they make it possible. So I do this role completely on a voluntary basis because I believe in it and I want to create a great environment for my children. But at the same time, if I didn't have this team, I wouldn't be able to do
I
it.
could be interested in your personal journey. If we look at choosing to homeschool, what did it change in your life after having read the 4 Hours Workweek?
So I left school at 16 and I had undiagnosed dyslexia at that point. So I was really bright, but school just was not for me. I was disruptive, disengaged, didn't have the best teachers. And so I kind of entered the workforce. And from a very young age, I had my own businesses. So I started my first business when I was 19. And so I would always been entrepreneurial. But when I started homeschooling, I gave up what I was doing to kind of focus on my son. And I think probably like most homeschooling parents, you learn as much as they learn. So I've been in the last 10 years on a complete journey. So including my own self-development, and then I qualified as a coach. And so that's kind of my side, what I do on the side. But what I have also seen and what I kind of bring to the hub is I work with so many people, adults, that we're kind of trying to undo some of their limiting beliefs, some of what the damage that's been done in order to give them the confidence to move forward. And so that kind of inspires me to give the children the tools that they need at this stage so they can then move forward into their lives.
Yeah, I sometimes, when Cecilia and I have talked about our goals for our homeschooling, our bringing them up to the young adult life, is I wish we can deliver them less broken than we self were.
Yeah.
And I don't believe we won't break a little thing here and there. We will be perfect parents, but less broken would be a wonderful goal.
Yeah, so I'm a really big believer. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Body Keeps Score, and about all the trapped trauma you can have in your body. And so I'm a big believer in you owe it to your children to do the work. And so you might not know what's there, but in order for you not to pass on generational trauma. So this is why we do things like sound healing and breath work, because then they can start to shift things inside of parents. And so some of the transformations we saw within parents and families last year were incredible. And this is kind of why we've doubled down on some of the wellness that we're doing.
I read that book, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
Or maybe only half of it. I can't really remember.
It's quite a big book.
Yeah. Just to not try to pretend I'm something I'm not. I flipped through a lot of books and read some of it. I don't think I finished it.
No, I definitely
I think
didn't.
I read more of the When the Body Says No book. That was the one I finished.
Yeah. So again, this is the kind of ethos behind Worldschooling, is that a lot of people live in lives of chronic stress and the pace of which they live at. So I can't take credit in Goa because Goa has this incredible energy. And for some people, it can be really confronting because it forces you to slow down. Some people don't realize they need to slow down. And just to be able to give yourself that space, and then suddenly you've got the nature, the beaches, the food, everything in combination, you start having less inflammation and people start having better sleep. And it's just the way that we live in the West, in India, that they don't live. And the other thing that we have there is the team that we have. It's almost like we have a lot of Indian aunties. So we've had lots of guests come to us and say, we didn't realize how lonely we were. And that's obviously a problem in a lot of the West. And that just makes me so sad.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about how to work with it in the normal life, because we as travelers, we often co-live, so we don't see it as much, but I can see it around me, and I see it when I hear people. And I think one of the solutions is making more stuff in real life for people to attend. If it's talks, if it's small conferences, if it's small retreats, And I'm beginning to look more in this direction of, can we help facilitate people just be together?
But it was quite interesting as I went to a conscious parenting workshop last night, and we were talking about mother circles and women's circles. And this lady was saying, actually, in Dubai, it's quite hard. And I kind of said, well, it's what social media does. Social media, that, everybody wants to be this perfect mother. So to admit that you're struggling and the shame that comes, that we almost put on ourselves to go, actually, we're not perfect. Whereas actually what we all need is to be around people that are saying exactly the same things, because that makes you feel connected, and it also makes you realize you're not alone.
Yeah, I'm doing some dad circles from time to time where I think the most healing part for the other parents is to hear how big a fuck up I am. And all the errors I've made in my life. And then I've picked up some trinkets of knowledge here and there, but they come on, the knowledge come after looking at how I have been parenting or how I've been a husband and being like, oh, I could have done better. And then you find a solution and then you can share that. But you unfortunately sometimes need to do the walk and make the mistakes and see how you want to change as a person.
How have you found the dad circles? Because we do teen circles, we do women's circles, and we've done couple circles, and the men's circles at the hub are the things that we struggle with the most in terms of actually getting men to sign up and kind of partake.
When I start the circle, I asked them to raise the hand of who was sent there by their wife, and then we have a little laugh about it.
Yeah.
So, but men are, and I think that's often overseen, actually really, really vulnerable because they don't get to their vulnerability, and that is not good for them.
So this is one of the reasons we started the teen circle at the hub, was because we realized, especially with my son, but was talking to other teenage boys who vulnerability was considered such a negative thing from such a young age, and just going, actually, we need to encourage and support talking so they do open up and take that forward into adulthood. Yeah,
because I think that's the challenge, is that many of them doesn't dare sharing because they are afraid. But then it's the ones I've held is pretty, they're powerful because it is sitting, sharing, and it is the really good basis of it is do not give advice, just listen. And I often joke a little with them because I'm like, if you could do this at home with your wife, with your children, you would have a lot easier life, but sometimes you just want to go straight to solutions. But for many of them, I have done it on HEF, this Home Education Family Festival, and we have been like 18 men for each circle, which is a lot of men to go through on a subject. And there was a lot of returns from the year earlier, and there was some of the wives passing me by and saying thank you for the change it had brought in them last year. I don't know what the magic bullet is for it. I think that they are, the ones I've had at HEF is easy in one sense, as they are confined at being there for a week. It's a family festival that goes on for a week, so why not join? But I think the challenge for many of us men is that we feel vulnerable when we share because we haven't been used to it. I think a lot of us men in my generation have been raised by men who forgot to talk with them. And the more I've thought about it, I've actually went down I can't find the books on this out there. So now I've started writing my own because I want to be part of changing that societal culture about dads not sharing. One of my favorite stories about it is I talked with my mate Martin and said to him, so what did your dad say to you when you came and said that you were becoming a father, that your wife had the baby on the way? And his dad tapped him on the shoulder, said, congratulations, and said, let's go to the pub for a pint. Yeah. That was it. And that was the dialogue. There's a lot more to fatherhood than drinking a beer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, So it's work that needs to be done. And I'm trying to see if I can be part of lifting it, but it is scary at the same time, because that to go a place where you share and want to become a better dad, there's unfortunately also the steps in it where you cannot help to look yourself in the mirror and acknowledge the errors you have made, and that is not a fun thing to do. So it's a balance of how can you do the work, find a way to become a better dad, person, husband, lover, all those things, without judging yourself. And I think that's one of the challenges in all personal development, that we see what we want, but we should look at ourselves with love. I find it's super challenging.
So one of the things that we do at the Hub is we have quite a lot of families that stay for more than 1 month, and everybody is on their own journey. And so some people are ready, some people are not. So there is a lot of doing the work while you're there as a process of the healing. Lots of families will do Reiki sessions or breath work or work on their fascia or do cranial therapy and cupping. So there's a lot of which can unearth a lot. So again, it's having that supportive community that when you are having a tough couple of days, that kind of will hold you, but also give you space.
Yeah, that's a good combination. How many families do you have room for, or is it fluctuating as people can also stay outside?
So the maximum families we take all together is 11 families, I think, this year. And we deliberately keep it small, because what we find is generally there will always be a child that has some noise sensitivity issues, and that will be harder. But also we're really looking for connection. And so, when you do have 30 families over a period of a month, that's a lot. And, we want those deeper connections.
Yeah, indeed. So how is your program? How many months are you running it, the Worldschooling Hub Goa? Is it like half a year all the time, your plan?
No, so it's only 3 months. We do 3 cohorts a year now. So last year we did 5 cohorts. As I say, that because my husband is in Dubai a lot, we end up being split as a family. So that's kind of tough for us as well. And in order to sustain the hub, this year I'm also running my retreats there. So my retreats, because again, I think this is probably not something that's talked enough about in hubs, about the fact that hubs are businesses with costs. And as I say, we have a team, we have free acres, there's lots of costs that go into it all year round, regardless of whether or not we're open or not. And so my retreats are more profitable. So this is something that I'm doing on the side to almost supplement. So, for example, we're putting in a swimming pool this year, which should be ready for the first guests. It's actually my retreats that have paid for that, which means that the families get to benefit from it. And, it's a kind of win-win situation.
Yeah, and just also one thing is the cost of running a thing, but also everyone should be allowed to earn a little living on putting in all those hours. And it is a fun thing that there's this balance. How much can we talk about money? It would be, of course, a perfect world if everyone just came around and I created an event, and then people, instead of money, just brought clothes and food and cooked for me so I could use the time on creating the event. Yes, that would be a wonderful thing, but that's not how we live.
I don't think so. I think it would be really annoying.
Yeah.
No, but I do. I mean, we would have to, it would be so much more work for the brain to have to figure out, So I'd need some guests who could cook vegan food, but not too many, because we don't need only cooks. So, I mean, it's just, there's a reason the monetary system is working worldwide. It's because it's a highly practical way of trading. It just works. Yeah. You neutralize the energy into the money, and then you reuse it where you need it.
Yep.
But there's a toxic relationship around, for most people, it's a toxic relationship to money. And we can't talk about money, and we can't talk about how we feel. It's almost the last taboo. And creating hubs, you're doing this work, you're making social events, and then you are met by this question, why do I have to pay for friendship? Well, you're not paying for my friendship. or the friendships you make in the hub. You're paying for all the work, all the structure that goes around it. And that's just, and then it becomes a toxic conversation because everyone has issues they need to work with around the money.
Yeah, I think what some people see as value, other people won't. So one of the things that we're doing differently this year than what we did last year was we've split up our package. So we have one price for drop-off. We do offer a certain amount of scholarships a year for single parents and Indian families. Then we have the package if you want to stay on site. And then we have a package for the community and the activities. Because I think what people don't realize is, inevitably families leave on air conditioning, coffee can start to add up. There's all these incremental costs that before we started the hub, I had no idea about. And that money has to come from somewhere. And I quite often will be asked, well, can I trade my skills for time? And so when we first started, before the hub opened, we had some volunteers and it didn't work out very well in terms of what we needed versus it didn't feel like a balanced exchange at that point. So for example, now I will take gap year students that are kind of trying to, if that works, but because there is a cost to us, we can't discount because obviously that's coming out of our pocket if we do discount.
Of course.
And if people can't, so we believe in a huge amount of value. So we have so many partnerships locally. So for example, families that come and stay at the hub, we have a personal trainer that comes in and does fitness sessions however many times a week. And you also get a gym membership to his gym. And so there's all of these incrementals that actually add to the value that we're offering families. When we first started Worldschooling, I sold things, I sold my car, we house sat, and I think it's quite often to see people where they're at today versus where their journey first came from. It was a dream for me. And, that started off on, day trips to Europe before I could expand into, and my budget has changed over time, but I still remember, and it was that desire to want to travel.
Oh, yeah. We started in an old Fiat Ducato that was, if I looked at it today, I wouldn't touch it almost. But it gave so wonderful adventures. And the togetherness as a family when you travel is just, I think that's what I love the most by being confined into small space when we are traveling, is that we are so much more together than when we live in houses, because then we have all our different projects. I think at the same time, it's kind of a breathing in, breathing out, because I also need to work on some of the projects. And so we have this intense life being in our van traveling, and then we live in houses. So it is, I think there's, a nice curve in it, a nice rhythm. Amanda, for people who want to know more about your retreats and the Worldschooling Hub Goa, where should they go to figure more stuff out?
So we have a Facebook group, which is Worldschooling Hub Goa, and I publicize on that a lot more. That's probably the channel I publicize on most. We have Instagram, which again is Worldschooling Hub Goa, and we also have our website, which again is Worldschooling Hub Goa. So I manage any of the communications. So again, fit is so important to us. So families start off by filling out a registration form, and then I have like a fit call to just make sure that, as I say, and some of the key things that we look for with families is, one, that they really want community, and second is that they're open. And so I advise families that if you have a lot going on in that month, probably not the best month to come to us, that, to come with an open mind and an open heart and just kind of embrace what we offer.
Yeah. And what about the retreats you do with people? Can you share a little about that before we round up?
Yeah, sure. I work with women, and generally it's women entrepreneurs. And so I have 3 retreats that all are slightly different in terms of what they are wanting. One is a nervous system reset, so really focusing on that. One is about embodying kind of feminine energy and kind of moving into, we live in a very masculine world. And I was just at an event this morning and I rang my husband afterwards and I was like, it was just, the energy was so masculine. And I was like, I've spent so much of my life in masculine energy. Now that I'm in my feminine, I'm just like, no, this is where I'm happy. There's no resistance. There's no hustle. I'm just all about receiving, and that's my happy place. So it's teaching women again to how to step into that space and own it. And then the other hub is, or the other retreat is, again, the business ideas, how you can build your confidence, practical steps. So I've spent 20 years running businesses, and I'm about working smarter, not harder, but also building businesses that align with your core values, that I'm all about living in alignment. And so, I get approached quite often by people that want to homeschool. And I found recently, I've been telling people, especially here in Dubai, don't do it. And the reason that I've been saying don't do it is because quite often here now it's for financial reasons. And I'm like, it's hard. And, I can normally tell within a few seconds of speaking to a parent, because it's hard on you and it's hard on the child if it's not if you're doing it for financial reasons. And saying, maybe reconsider. And it's probably the first time in the last 10 years I've been saying, actually, really consider it before you jump, because, I don't think there's probably a harder project to have to deal with than your children, because you're so invested into them, and then making sure, like you said, that they become successful adults and they're less damaged than what you were. And so the intentions need to be right from the start.
Oh, yes. That's one of the things I share on my dad's circles, and which I happily will share here with you and my wife, is the amount of times I can when I was at an office, sat at the office and were thinking, oh, my wife is just at home sipping coffee, having fun. And now I've lived next to it, because I'm still the one doing a lot of the behind the computer work, and my wife is the full-time mom plus doing her work. So most often homeschooling, the one who is responsible, which, let's be honest, often is the mother, is doing a double job compared to many of us men. But we like to claim that we are sacrificing ourselves on the pillar of work. Yes, I'm saying it loud.
Remember you said you.
Yeah. I said something like this last week.
You said something like that yesterday.
And that's.
And when I confronted you and said, "Do I hear that whining about you sacrificing again?"
Yeah.
You were like, "Oh, but
it's true." Yeah. No, but that's maybe why I wanted to share it. I'm sorry.
One of the things I'm also loving is, because we do it in 1 month cohorts, there's no requirement with us that the child is homeschooled to start with. So for example, in December, we have some families that are coming from Australia because it aligns with their school holidays. And then we have quite a few families coming from Norway in January. And what I love is being able to give people that space to explore alternative education. So it's not a one size. So I was speaking to a journalist a while ago, and obviously for most people, it's a very different way of living. So they can't understand, when you step off the hamster wheel, that there could be this alternative kind of almost parallel universe that you live in. And she just kept on, and she was wanting to find a pattern. And I was like, there is no pattern. We have some people that are long-term travelers. We have some people that are starting out, some people that have sold their possessions, and some people that are gap years, some people that are homeschoolers, some people that are not. I was like, and I spoke to the most incredible family yesterday who went on one of the Worldschooling cruises a few months back. And he was like, we didn't know this world existed. But now that we've opened up this box, we know that we want to be a part of this world, but we know we can't do it on our own. So we need help. And so then that's why they're looking for communities. And I love that more and more hubs are growing, because there's almost that there's something for everyone and every budget, if you wish. You can find community wherever you go. But obviously, if you're fast traveling, it's quite difficult sometimes. And relationships can be quite transient. So I am definitely a slow traveler now. And that's where me and the kids are happier, because it's really difficult to form those communities if you are traveling fast.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Oh, yes.
We travel, we can't. So there's no pattern, as you say. For us, there's no pattern in that. We sometimes stay for a few months. We sometimes stay for a few hours. We sometimes stay for a few weeks. I think it has different advantages, but we've been traveling for many, many years. And for us now, at this point, some of the fast traveling is community.
Yeah.
It's making sure we catch up with everyone. And that means sometimes, okay, but we only have these 2 weeks at hand, and we're moving from the south of Europe to the north of Europe. That's what's going on. So why don't we zigzag and we make sure we just spend a day or two with everyone important on the way? So I mean, even that, you're right that it can be really hard to fast travel and create community. But
So
then
what
in the long run, that can even be negated. There's no system to this kind of lifestyle. Everyone has to make up their own way of doing it.
And I think that changes and evolves over time. So just the same way you homeschool, you tweak it constantly.
Mhm.
So I was, I get fascinated by families that, you know, have these itineraries that I used to have. And now, because now I travel by feeling. So I will book a trip. Quite often it's a one-way trip. And when I feel it's time to leave, we leave. And like as a family, we just know. And so for people in, and I'll say people in the normal world, my friends that have conventional jobs and lives, they just do not understand because they have their set holidays every year that they have. And they'll be like, well, where are you going to be at this point? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's see. So it means that you become quite non-committal about things, but I quite like the adventure that comes with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're funnily enough moving in the opposite direction. We've been traveling by feeling and spontaneously for the first, I don't know, maybe 6.5 years of traveling, 7 years. And then just recently, we realized the benefit of commitment, of being able to tell our community where we are.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's a community thing for us. If we say, we're going to be in Rome in all of December, then suddenly 5 families that we're friends with will also pop by Rome in December. So yeah, there's just, and it's really hard because we are so navigating by intuition. And now I have to be in Prague in April next year. And I'm like, that's a long time from now.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck. I can't be anywhere else in April next year. What if my heart takes me to Norway, or I don't know?
Well, this is my thing. I get serious FOMO. So I'm like, and then I have guests asking me all the time, families that I speak to, well, what do you do in the off months? And I'm like, well, I travel because I do the thing that I used to love to do the most. And now when I'm at the hub, I see all of these, I have to say goodbye to families that are going off and traveling, and me going, but that's still in me. I still want to do it.
But there's freedom that's the funny thing. There's freedom to be found within any constriction, right? So you have the freedom to create some deeper relationships, to provide something for the community, to make some money, to do something meaningful for your children, all the things, because you chose to constrain yourself and you're not able to travel those months. And, you know, and in the same way, if you choose the freedom of the one-way ticket and not really having made any decisions more than 24 hours ahead, well, then you don't have the freedom to invite your friends to come and to align with other people. And, you know, it always has this, any choice comes with a constriction of some sort. Yeah. And also with a set of freedom options. And it's just to find the one that makes you happy.
But I think quite often we like to apply rules to ourselves in life. So, you know, so quite often my husband will go, but what about this? And I'm like, but actually we get to decide, we get to make these rules, but we almost self-impose a rule. Or a restriction or a belief or a label, and just going the same with like homeschooling. I would say, do what works for your family. What works for your family is not going to work for somebody else's family. And that will change over time, and you need to be agile and adaptable. But by being rigid in what you want, it doesn't always help. And so it's the same with, I think families know when it's time to go home, wherever home then may be as well, that their time is done and they actually prefer home. So for example, we've always had a home base, and I never see us not having it. We have 2 dogs here. My husband's job is a bit more, he works from home, but he can't always be traveling, but he likes his creature comforts. He likes his coffee mug. So at the moment, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Up. This is what I'm dreaming about today. That, you know, our house here in Dubai, and with all my things, goes to Goa, and then I don't have to do the packing. But sometimes it's nice to come home, and it's it's a feeling and it's familiar and it's, so I do love having a base because as I say, it's that sometimes you need to almost retreat to a place that is your safe space.
Yeah, that's our van for us. It's like the in-between solution. It's not really a house, but at least it's our base. It's our stuff. Yeah. It's our organization of a space, and we can take it with us and explode into a house if we need to, or stay in the van if that's fun. Yeah. So yeah, that's another.
And how long have you been doing van life for?
Well, that's the thing. It has changed over time. When we started traveling, I needed the mental security because it wasn't the real security of feeling I brought a house with me. So we bought a bus from 1973 and rebuilt it. And it is as dreamy and Instagrammable as you can think. But it's quite hard to drive something that is 11 ton and you don't feel secure driving, and it's old and it can easily break, and you don't drive down to the beach in it. So we ended up having that as a base next to an animal sanctuary for many years. And that was a really good base when that time was fitting. But then our perspective changed, our needs changed, our kids wanting to be with more older children changed. So we bought another van, traveled back and forth. So we do this mix between that the van life is more, I would say, it's a guest house we bring, plus it's an adventure van. So sometimes we take a month where we just go deep in being different places and seeing beautiful nature wonders. And then we need to breathe out in a house and just stretch out and have projects on all the tables and stuff like that. So it is very interchangeable. I couldn't do van life full time, not with 3 kids and 2 dogs. I think the most van lifers we have seen, they're like, oh, it's so cool. So how many people are you in this big ass car? 1? Okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, 1 or 2 is fine, but 5.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say we dream. We kind of have some dreams about doing it. I think we'll definitely try it. So we have a place in the UK, but I don't love going back to the UK. So I'm like, well, maybe we can just, I like variety, so maybe we can just move around. But in my head, I'm a minimalist, but in reality, I'm not. So it's kind of, I know what I need. So maybe we try it.
Well, it's not, and nothing is a choice for forever. You can have a van and travel in it for a while and then do something else for a while. And and then that's what we've been doing on different, I mean, it's our 4th van right now, if you count the bus as a van. So if that changes as well, then you need a bigger one or a smaller one or a faster one or a stronger one, or, so I don't think we could ever settle on one system for life. The needs change and the context change and children change, relationships change. We're quite a big family growing with the romantic relationships adding on, and there's a lot going on. So there's no system, no rule. We just have to make the best plan at the moment.
But I could see us also 20, 30 years from now have a van, me and Cecilia, because I love it as the guest house you bring. So when you go to friends, they don't need to have a place for you to sleep over, and you can stay all night, and you don't need to drive home tired in the middle of the night. You can just hang out, wake up, have a coffee and a talk in the morning.
We did it. We did a trip when we were in Australia. We drove from Melbourne to Sydney, and we camped outside of my husband's parents' house in Australia. And again, that was quite nice because I was like, we have our space, but they're next door.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
I feel like we're procrastinating your packing, aren't we? Really?
Yes, we should.
I'm all for that. So as I say, we're taking a lot of stuff back with us. So one of the things that we're doing at the hub this year more of is, and that I'm incorporating into our retreats, is biohacking. So it's an area that I'm really passionate about. So I've got quite a lot of equipment that I've acquired over the summer where I've been trying all of these different treatments and going, okay, this I think would be incredible to take back. And so some of the products that we're taking back this year, actually, they don't have in India. So, it's going to be nice to introduce it in.
Oh,
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
it was good, and we tried to stop at some point, but then just
Then
continued
kept
chatting.
talking,
I loved it. So, Amanda, thank you for your time. We will share the links in the show notes and wish you some good months in Goa.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was fun.